What is up, guys? Welcome back. We got another episode of the Fantasy Fellow Show for you tonight. It is Wednesday evening. Usually, I do Wednesday evenings on the fantasyfellowship.com for members, but tonight I'm going to be out of town the next few days here into the weekend. So I thought it'd be a good weekend or a good week to hang out live on Wednesday night with everybody and answer any questions you guys got. We'll also pull up all the injury reports and the practice reports and basically just get you guys ready for week number 5. We're going to open up some things here. We'll probably review my weekly start sit charts as well. This is another feature that you guys can get by becoming a member on the fantasyfellowship.com. I do post these and I update these throughout the week. But we have an interesting game tomorrow night. We have an NFC South showdown, Tampa Bay Buccaneers at the Atlanta Falcons. I think not a lot of questions as far as who you're starting and sitting. I think on the Falcons side, I'm sitting Kyle Pitts this weekend, and hopefully, I'm fine with Kyle Pitts going off on my bench. I don't really want to mess with him in my starting lineup right now. So he needs to prove it before he enters my starting lineup. Otherwise, you're starting Bijan, you're starting Drake London. The maybes are Tyler Algier and Darnell Mooney. On Tampa Bay's side, we're looking at start everything, like Chris Godwin, yes. Mike Evans, yes. Baker Mayfield, yes. If I have to choose between a running back here, Rachaad White or Bucky Irving, I'm playing Bucky Irving. I think we're going to see Bucky Irving separate himself tomorrow night. So I'm pretty excited. If you need a tight end, like Cade Otton might be a better option for you. And then we're going to keep an eye on Trey Palmer, who has a concussion. I think he's already ruled out. I think Jalen McMillan's been ruled out. So Sterling Shepard would be the wide receiver 3 here. So interesting game, short week here. Good evening to Christian. Hope you're doing well. He's asking Jackson Smith-Njigba or T. Higgins. I'm starting to like what I'm seeing from T. Higgins here. If I go to fantasy points allowed, let's look and see here. It's a big matchup against the Baltimore Ravens. Ravens defense looked really good shutting down Josh Allen last weekend. But Baltimore, they do rank. All right, they're top 3 here. They're only allowing about 16 points per game. That's running back. My bad. We should scroll on down a little farther. So 48 catches, 653 yards, and 4 TDs allowed here. That's about 34 points. I think I'm going to go with T. Higgins. I don't hate the matchup for JSN, but I just, if someone's going to catch a touchdown, I think it's going to be Higgins. So we're going to go JSN, or we're going to go Higgins over JSN. Good evening to Jerry. Hope you're doing well. Good evening to Harris. We got Jason and JSC also saying T. Higgins. I want T. Higgins in that question. Shout out Brian. Hope you're doing well. Do you like Kraft or Evan Ingram this week? That's a fair question. We did see, I believe Evan Ingram got a limited day of practice in, which is good to see. That puts him on track to play this week for the first time since week 1. You can see here limited. And I just want to say this, but the Jags are actually favored to win this weekend against the Colts. So I'm optimistic that the Jags offense could look good in this one. I like Evan Ingram, but you got Tucker Kraft, man. I think with Ingram's first game back, I'm probably going to roll out Tucker Kraft and just I want to see what Ingram looks like and what this offense looks like. He does have a good history against the Colts, but I think you want to play Tucker Kraft against a Rams defense right now that has no answers. You can see the Rams here. They rank 24th against tight end, about roughly 11 PPR points per game. I'm going to lean with that. The Colts are pretty bad against tight end, though, so keep that in mind. But I'm going to lean Kraft. I feel like he's a safer play right now. Yes, I would pick up Christian Kirk if you can. Pick up Christian Kirk. So I've seen a few rumors where Christian Kirk could be traded. There's been, teams like Kansas City need a receiver, Dallas Cowboys. Pittsburgh Steelers wouldn't be great, but there's a few receiver-needy teams that could trade for Kirk, and I think he's got value right now, even on the Jags. So that one's tricky. It's a tough matchup for Xavier Legette. He's playing the Chicago Bears. Bears only allowed 1 receiving touchdown all year, about 25 PPR points per game. Even if we split that down the middle for Deontay and Xavier Legette, that's 12.5 points each for the top 2 receivers, sprinkle in some Mooney points. So I don't know if the Carolina Panthers are going to over exceed this 25 points that we're seeing receivers get allowed against Chicago. So I'm slightly hesitant on Xavier Legette. Tampa Bay also pretty good against opponent wide receivers. And for some reason, we didn't see Mooney get pummeled with targets last week. So I think I'm going to take the swing on Xavier Legette. I think, 10 targets. They gave him some carries. I kind of like Legette against the Bears. Chase Brown, Ramondre, Javonte. I'm going to rank them as Chase Brown, number 1. Javonte, and then Ramondre, number 3. I didn't like Ramondre coming into the year, and he's fumbled in every game, and there's already coaches, talking about maybe getting Antonio Gibson more involved. I think Chase Brown ramping up. I think Javonte Williams looked good last week. This Tyler Bidet injury opens things up. You also have to worry a little bit about the big running back there coming back, Audric Estime. But I'm going to rank them Brown, Javonte, Ramondre. You can keep praying unless there's if there's somebody that you really, really want on waiver wires, I'm okay cutting Mark Andrews. You have Brock Bowers. We're starting Brock Bowers every week at this point. And honestly, the Devontae Adams thing, that might help Brock Bowers in the long run, but he's going to get more focus and attention from defenses. But if you have Mark Andrews and you want to make a pickup for, I don't know, say like Christian Kirk got dropped, if you're picking up, Dontavian Wicks or some of the other guys here, I would move on from Mark Andrews. Oh, we can trust Trey McBride every week when he's healthy. Let's see. Trey McBride playing against the 49ers. It is a tough matchup. San Francisco only allows about 5.6 points per game to the tight end. I'm not really quite sure which tight ends they've all played this year, but I think there's a correlation that the Cardinals offense bottomed out last weekend against a really bad team defensively, the Washington Commanders, and they didn't look good. I think Trey McBride's a big part of what they do. I'm continuing to rank Trey McBride as like my top 1 or 2 tight ends. I'm starting Trey McBride if I have him. Sammy Darnold or Anthony Richardson. I'm a little uneasy relying on Anthony Richardson right now. I kind of want to see him have a big game before I start him. It looked like he was going to have a big game last weekend, man. He came out and he threw the ball well, 3 for 4 and 70-some yards. And this is interesting. Look at the fantasy points allowed here. Jacksonville and the Colts, they play each other this weekend. The Colts, both these defenses are not great. We could see Anthony Richardson play well, whereas the Jets, on the other hand, they're the number 3 team. They're allowing about 9 points per game. I like Sam Darnold, but I think in your situation here, I'm going to lean with Anthony Richardson in a plus matchup this weekend. Darnold's safe, though. If you just want to get your 12 to 14 points, Darnold's safe. Jason says rank Deontay Thomas. I'm assuming that's Brian Thomas Jr. and Flowers this week, half PPR. Deontay Johnson, there's probably only 5 or 6 receivers that I'm going to rank ahead of Deontay Johnson this week. And honestly, Brian Thomas Jr., we're looking at, the Colts, they allow a ton of wide receiver points here. They've allowed a ton of quarterback points. They've allowed 6 touchdowns here. I think they struggle with outside receivers as well. We can actually look this up real quick. Let me go to FF Today. I absolutely love Brian Thomas Jr. If you guys can throw out any offers to people that have Brian Thomas Jr., I think he's worth trading for right now. Points allowed wide receiver. Where are my Colts versus wide receiver? So Nico Collins went 6 for 117. Dontavian Wicks 3 for 26 and a touchdown. Romeo Doubs, another outside receiver, 3 for 62. And then the Bears lit this team up. And then last weekend we saw George Pickens light them up. So I think Brian Thomas Jr. is in a potential go nuts situation against a really bad team here. So I like BG number 2. And then I'm sorry, I lost my spot there. And then Zay Flowers number 3. Brian Thomas Jr. this week for me. Good evening to Tony. What's going on with Brandon Cooks? I think you can safely cut Brandon Cooks, Harris. I think it's probably over. Dude's got an infection. He had a surgery after the game last weekend. Where's the player news here? So they've already ruled him out for week 5 due to an infection stemming from a knee procedure he underwent last week. He's second on the team. But I think I'm just done with Brandon Cooks. If you have him in a redraft, I'd probably get rid of him. Honestly, I'm probably fine moving on from him in a dynasty league too. I think this is probably the end of the Brandon Cooks era. And who knows when he could come back? An infection. They haven't put him on IR yet, but I'm willing to move on from Brandon Cooks. Mark Andrews is already droppable. A lot of people looking at Tucker Kraft, a lot of people looking at some of the other tight ends that have been hanging around the wire. I'm not ready to cut Patrick Mahomes yet. I find it interesting, guys, that they haven't said Rashee Rice tore his ACL yet. I don't think he tore his ACL. They would have told us this. It's Wednesday. They should have confirmed this by Monday or Tuesday at the latest already. I think there's a sliver of hope that Rashee Rice comes back at some point this season. Brandon Aiyuk, I'm going to give another week or two yet. I want to see what he looks like. The 49ers have a dream matchup this weekend. If we're looking at points against the wide receivers here, let's see. The Arizona Cardinals, I mean, they let the Commanders do whatever they wanted last weekend, but they're allowing a lot of points to wide receivers here. So I think potentially this week you could see some good returns from Aiyuk. I'm also optimistic on Patrick Mahomes just being a safe and like every week. And I know the numbers haven't been great, but you're getting a safe high floor every week. He's almost more safe than a Baker Mayfield or Sam Darnold or Geno Smith. Najee or Moss, full PPR. I'm going to lean Najee Harris. I don't feel great about it, but right now it's trending towards just Najee Harris this weekend. I don't think Cordero Patterson practiced today. It already sounds like Jaylen Warren's not going to play in this one. So you have Cordero and Warren out. I mean, we might be looking at a 20-25 touch game from Najee Harris this weekend. Ooh, wow. This is tough, Brian. I'm not going with Pittman Jr. I'm going with Higgins, Wicks, and then it's tough between JSN and Christian Kirk. I'm going to lean Christian Kirk. If I'm ranking these guys here, I'm curious what you guys think in the chat room. We'll go Higgins, Wicks, Kirk, JSN, DJ Moore, Pittman Jr. I'm not excited about the Bears or the Colts passing offense right now. In that case, I think I'm fine starting DJ Moore over Tyreek Hill. We're getting another week of Tyler Huntley. They are playing the New England Patriots, so maybe there's some wide receiver points here. It looks like the New England Patriots, one of the worst teams against the wide receiver position here. So we could see Huntley in a second game get some things going with Tyreek Hill. I think they're both 7 to 10 point plays. In this case, I think DJ Moore against the Carolina Panthers, man, the revenge game. I'm gonna go DJ Moore. London or Pickens. I'm gonna go Drake London. It's close though. We finally saw a nice game from George Pickens, but I'm gonna go Drake London in a game where the Saints are going to probably have to throw the ball to keep up with the Chiefs. I'm assuming that's Breece Hall there, Harris. Breece Hall for Reed and Joe Mixon. Wow. I'm definitely open to this. I mean, you're getting two starters for Breece Hall. I think Breece Hall is just, it was a bad game against Denver. I'm not going to overreact, but we do have some questions on the Jets offense as a whole. So I think, if you really need a wide receiver here, Harris, if you lost Rashee Rice or Puka or Kupp or one of the other receivers, I think I want Jaden Reed on my team. And then, Joe Mixon for Breece Hall. That might not be a bad swap. Stevenson or Rachaad White for the rest of the season. I mean, I think both guys have their use. I'm probably going to lean Ramondre Stevenson, but it's really close. I think I'm not really excited about. I'm not excited about either of these guys. I didn't draft a lot of them this year, but I'm going to lean Stevenson by a hair. Would you drop Rome for Tolbert? Man, that one's tough. I mean, it's no question who the better receiver talent is. It's Rome Odunze. But we're talking about Tolbert maybe being Tolbert's probably the number 3 target. If anything, like I'm pretty locked in with CD and Ferguson being the top 2 targets. I don't know if Tolbert is going to be a guy that we can trust every week. And honestly, the same thing for Rome Odunze here. But if we like, I mean, Tolbert, for him to really smash, he's going to need to overtake Ferguson and be the number 2 target. For Rome to really smash, he just needs Keenan Allen or DJ Moore to miss time, and he's a starting wide receiver again. I think I'm going to hold on to Rome Odunze here. So I'm going, I think Kareem Hunt over Ramondre is the advantage, and then I think Henry versus Mason is pretty close. And so because those ones are like, I mean, I think I have Jordan. Let me pull up my numbers here, guys. Let's see where, and I do have a rankings update coming out tomorrow, but I want to see where I have my running backs ranked this week. I have Mason, RB3, Henry, RB2. So these are both top 3 options this weekend. But the difference between Kareem Hunt and Ramondre is probably pretty significant. And honestly, I'm probably moving Ramondre down even further. Kareem Hunt, I have it RB23 right now. I'm going to flip them. I'm going to go with Kareem Hunt and Jordan Mason. Yes, I believe Austin Ekeler is back this weekend. He was on a radio show in the Washington area, and he said he was going to be on track to play. And we see that he's limited. So Austin Ekeler, I'd say 90% chance of playing. Ekeler or Rico half PPR. Man, that's tough. I really do like Rico Dowdle. It is a tough matchup on paper against the Pittsburgh Steelers. Steelers, one of the better teams here. They ranked 31st against the running back. They've allowed Bijan to hit 16, Javonte to hit 11.5, and Jonathan Taylor last weekend hit 19.8. So, you know, there's been a couple games here where they haven't had one game where a running back didn't go over 10 points. So I think the ceiling for Rico, I don't know, 8 to 12 points without a touchdown. With a touchdown, it's probably 16 to 18. But with Ekeler, we're kind of just hoping for him to rack up 3-4 catches in what should be a good game. But I feel safer with Rico in a half PPR league, even though it's the Steelers. Do I like Darnold or Baker rest of season outlook? I think they're both very, very similar. And that one's going to come down. I think that comes down to preference for me. Let me go see where I have my rest of season rankings here. Rest of season rankings. I have Darnold at 15 and Baker at 13. The main difference between Baker and Darnold is the Bucs can't run the ball. Aaron Jones can run the ball. Ty Chandler looks good. The Bucs are starting to run better with Bucky Irving, and that looks nice and things like that. But the heart of the Buccaneers offense remains Chris Godwin, Mike Evans. I know Justin Jefferson is the heart of the offense for the Vikings, but Aaron Jones is a huge part of what they're trying to do. I'm going to lean Baker Mayfield, but it's very close, and it kind of comes down to preferences. Starting Justice Hill over Charbonnet. I think I'm fine with that. Justice Hill has looked good this year. He's a little bit hard. He's a little bit wild and hard to project. And last weekend, you know, in the most positive game script imaginable, he absolutely went nuts. And he put up 21.6 points. If you're comfortable with the 5 to 7 point floor, you know, and that's what, you know, he's been getting 2 catches per game at the minimum. He's going to get his 4 or 5 carries, which is, you know, an extra 1 to 2, 3 points. I think I'm fine taking this swing for 5 to 7 points with hoping that he gets some dump offs in a competitive game. And then I did notice that this game's got a lot of high scoring potential when I looked at the game lines. Trey Tucker or Jordan Whittington, half PPR. Let's look and see. And the Raiders this weekend, who do the Raiders get? They're going to get Denver, man. Packers just got lit up. I'm going to go Jordan Whittington, but it's close. I do like Trey Tucker, but not against Denver. All right, pick 3. Not Yoshivas, not Benson, not Pirine, not Watson. I think you're starting Tucker Kraft. I think you're starting Michael Wilson. And then that final answer comes down, and I'm not going to go Conklin. It comes down to Gibson or Atwell. In that case, I'm going to lean Tutu Atwell, making some big plays. I don't want to drop Isaiah Likely just yet. And I mean, if you guys want, access into some of my stuff here, this is all on the membership tab of the Fantasy Fellowship. But I have Likely as tight end 13, so he's just on the cusp of being startable. I think I'd rather start him over these guys here that I have below him. But if you're able to pick up Tucker Kraft, if you have Njoku or any of the tight ends above here, I don't think you need Isaiah Likely. And it's not like, the shame of dropping Likely because you picked him up week 1, like, don't let that bother you. If he's not good for your team anymore, you can move on from Likely. I think all Ravens pass catchers are going to be very hard to trust because this running game is so good. And we saw that on Monday Night Football or Sunday Night Football. So if you have to move Likely to make an opening or another pickup, I think I'm okay with it, assuming you have one of the top 12 tight ends that I have here. And good evening to Brandon. Hope you're doing well, dude. Yep. I cut Gus Edwards last week in one of my deeper dynasty leagues. So Harris, we'll move on from Gus Edwards. If you need names to pick up, you can let me know who you're looking at, and we can figure it out. I'm going Dontavian Wicks. I think this weekend I have Dontavian Wicks ranked pretty highly. Let me go look at my rankings real quick for this week. And again, there will be a rankings update tomorrow. I like to kind of wait for Thursday news. But if I scroll on down to my wide receivers, I do have Jaden Reed as a top 10 receiver. But I got Dontavian Wicks at 23. Tank Dell probably a little bit lower. So Dontavian Wicks. MP Junior, MP sitting, and Michael. Who's MP Junior? Am I crazy? Michael Penix Jr. Okay. Oh, we're receiving Hall in that deal. No, I'm holding on to Jaden Reed and Joe Mixon. Yeah, that's a good question there, Christian. Let's let me pull up ESPN here. We'll kind of go through some of those running backs that I think are good trade candidates for right now. I'll zoom in a little bit here. All right, so these guys are going to be ranked by percent rostered here. So I'm going to scroll on down. If you can maybe, middle of the pack running backs, I do like Tony Pollard. Even though the offense has looked bad, Tony Pollard has been a hit 3 out of 4 games. I think you can live with this. Their upcoming schedule, they get the Colts, which you like. Buffalo and Detroit, not so much, but I'm fine with the Patriots game, the Chargers game, maybe not so much the Vikings game, but Houston, Washington, Jacksonville, Cincinnati, Indianapolis, Jacksonville. I expect the Titans to be competitive. And, I mean, we saw 16, 17, 22. You're getting a lot of volume out of Tony Pollard. So I do think Pollard is one to trade for. You can maybe try taking a shot at J.K. Dobbins just because, the last 2 weeks haven't been as great, but we see his upside against lesser opponents and their schedule. Like Denver's tough, but they're going to get Arizona, which we like. They get Tennessee, Cincinnati down here. Kind of a tougher schedule, but I do think J.K. Dobbins, he could be a guy that you buy low on. I'm kind of open to taking a chance on Chuba Hubbard because people are kind of expecting Jonathan Brooks to come back here, but Chuba Hubbard, man, I don't think they just push Chuba Hubbard away. Even if Jonathan Brooks is back by week 7 or 8, I still expect Chuba Hubbard to be involved in the offense to get 10 to 15 touches per game. So he's a low-end RB2 for me the rest of the way. I like Chuba Hubbard. You can maybe try and get, a guy like Chase Brown right now is on the rise, but you can, check and see what his owner thinks. I think Jaylen Warren, when he returns, hopefully, Najee Harris is not impressing with his opportunity right now. Like this is supposed to be the best opportunity for Najee Harris to show what he can do, and he's just not coming through. I think Jaylen Warren's a good buy low. I think Kareem Hunt's a guy that I'm trying to get. Bucky Irving, maybe. Those are some middle of the pack guys here. Otherwise, you can maybe buy low on a guy like Josh Jacobs. I think maybe buying low on Devon Achane right now and just holding out for hope that when Tua comes back, this offense has some more electricity back. They have a bye week coming up here, so maybe Devon Achane's a name that you could buy for pretty cheap right now. Just a handful of guys there that I think are worth it. Maybe Aaron Jones. Probably not getting Montgomery right now, though. And yeah, I mean, if I'm starting Chuba Hubbard over Devin Singletary, I'm probably starting, maybe Chase Brown, Kareem, like some of the names that we talked about there, I think are good options. Andy Dalton or Caleb Williams. I'm going to lean Andy Dalton in this one just because we've seen him be consistent for 2 straight games. Caleb Williams still has a lot to prove. I'm going with ETN here, Brian. And I know the numbers have not been great. He did. So from my understanding is he got hurt last Sunday picking up a blitz early in the game. So he wasn't benched or anything like that. But he goes 11 for 50, 1 for 10. He's still running, like, despite the Jags struggles, he's still playing good football. It's just a matter of can the Jags offense turn over and be even if an average Jags offense would be a spike up at this point. So I'm starting ETN. I feel more comfortable about it. And like I said, the Jags are projected to win this weekend by 3 at home. It's also Trevor Lawrence's birthday. My prediction is the Jags get their first win this weekend. Hopefully we see ETN come back around here. I'm going ETN. Whew, yeah, man. If you if you went back, middle of August and said this comment, Jason, we'd all be like, what the hell happened? I'm willing to give Tyreek one more try. I'm looking for Tyreek's numbers here. What do they got him projected at? Where is Mr. Hill? So the thing that I liked is they were actively trying to get him the ball. 7 targets, 3 carries. They're trying to get him the ball. And the New England Patriots are just not a good defense. We saw Brock Purdy light them up. Aaron Rodgers in their offense lit them up. Even though he only scored 7 to 8 points, I don't know quite yet what the floor is for Xavier Legette. I would imagine Tyreek's another big part of the game plan this weekend. In this case, I'm going to give Tyreek Hill one more week, and then he's on bye. Hopefully Tua comes back soon. Whittington, Pierce, Polk, Sermon, Jalen Wright. I'm glad you brought up Jalen Wright. I think he is a guy that, go check your waiver wires, guys. If he's still hanging out on your waiver wire, I think he's an interesting ad right now. He ran the ball 9 for 32 last weekend. And the last 2 games, he's been the Dolphins' leading running back rusher in terms of yards. Even though he ran 2 carries, he outproduced Achane. So I think there might be some more opportunities for Jalen Wright in the future. Not this week yet. I think if we do get news that Jonathan Taylor is out, which is what we are expecting, I'm going to lean Sermon being your best bet. Otherwise, I would rank it as Sermon, Whittington, Pierce, Polk, Wright. I'm not quite 100% ready to trust Legette. Let me see where I have Xavier Legette ranked here. So I did put Tyreek Hill at 29. I have Legette at 31. Smith-Njigba I have pretty high at 21 against the Giants. I like him quite a bit. And then I do have Rashid Shaheed just 1 ahead. Dude, I think Rashid Shaheed is a must-start player right now in fantasy football. He's had the one bad game, which everyone remembers more than the other good games, because everybody was starting him week 3 against Philadelphia, and he gets us a 0. But he did have 5 targets in that game. He had a touchdown go off his hands, and last weekend showed me something that, hey, 8 for 83 and a team-high 11 targets and 2 carries. Like, I don't think the Saints view him as just like a deep threat, one-trick pony type anymore. He can do all the stuff in between. So I think there's some momentum here for Shaheed, and I'm starting Shaheed over Legette. I think I'm going to take the Jackson Smith and the Jigba safety. So if you want to play it safe, go JSN. He's had, he's been their leading receiver in terms of snaps and routes. He's had 2 bad games, 2 good games. I'm gonna lean JSN here, but JSN, Shaheed, Legette would be my ranking. Who are we dropping here? Okay. You know, I know Jawan Jennings has been very, very good for us, but I'm kind of thinking Jennings is probably the drop here. Everyone's gonna look at this 46.5 as being the play, but I kind of view this as very volatile. I mean, I think Debo's a week healthier. You still have Ayuk and Kittle. I know Kittle missed practice today, but I'm leaning towards Jawan Jennings having the least, he's got the most short-term value. Whereas if you're 2-3 weeks out, I think you might regret dropping some of the other players. So I'm gonna drop probably Jawan Jennings here and grab that tight end. For this week here, Tucker, Leggett, Eckler. We're gonna go Leggett, Tucker, Eckler. Coleman or Justice Hill PPR. I have Derrick Henry. I'm gonna go with Keon Coleman. I'm not a big Keon Coleman guy, and I'm willing. I didn't draft Keon Coleman a lot this year in all my best balls and all my other things, but he's been impressive. He didn't have a catch against Miami, which was fine. They blew them out. That's a weird game script. But otherwise, he's been involved, and he's their lead receiver in terms of snaps and routes on the year so far. I'm going to lean Keon Coleman, but it's not by much. If you wanted to go Justice Hill because you just want to grab your 5 to 8 points and hope for something big to happen, I'm fine with that too. But I'm going to lean Keon Coleman in a really fun game. Houston, Buffalo, that could be a high-scoring opportunity for the passing offenses. Oh, yeah, Jason. Aaron Jones he's must start, even in a tough matchup, even if there's a fire. I'm going Aaron Jones. He's my RB9. Jerome Ford a little bit further. He's probably in the 20s for me. And hey, good evening to Aiden. Hope you're doing well, dude. Mooney or Trey Tucker. Let me look at my rankings here. I got Mooney at 40, and I do have to move Trey Tucker up. But I have Myers at 50. It's a tough matchup against Denver. I mean, we've seen Denver just absolutely shred defenses this year, or shred offenses this year. I'm going to lean Darnell Mooney in this one. And even though Mooney didn't have a great game last weekend, he still got open deep. And I would expect him to have a bounce back game. I'm just looking for where Darnell Mooney's projections are. Where is Mr. Mooney? Yeah, he's projected a healthy amount here. He's been good. I mean, even 8.6, if that's a bad game for Mooney, I'm going with Mooney. Andy Dalton or Daniel Jones? We got to watch the health of our boy, Harris. I don't know if Malik Neighbors is going to play yet. He didn't practice today, which I figured he'd be on track to play just with a few extra days. If he's not practicing tomorrow and if he's not playing, you're going with Andy Dalton. And I think in this case, I'm probably just going to lean Andy Dalton over Daniel Jones anyways. It's a tough road matchup at Seattle for Daniel Jones. If someone dropped Tank Dell, yeah, I'm willing to go pick up Tank Dell. You'll have to let me know who we can cut. Cut Darnold and Pollard for Chase Brown and Neighbors. Would you do this? So I'm assuming you have another capable quarterback and you don't need Darnold. You're upgrading at receiver in the short term, and I really like Tony Pollard right now. I don't know if this makes your team better in the long run. I think it makes it better for a week or two, but I'm expecting Cooper Kupp to be back by week 7 because they're on bye next weekend. And honestly, I kind of want Pollard more than I want Chase Brown. And I'm just thinking, by week 7, what's the outlook for Cooper Kupp versus Malik Neighbors? I think it's really close. I don't think this trade makes you a lot better, but if you and we don't know if Neighbors is playing this weekend. If he doesn't play this weekend, you kind of lose the trade. So if we get confirmation that Neighbors is going to be practicing and playing this weekend, I'll do the trade. Bucky, Shaheed, or Chase Brown? Man. I kind of like Bucky Irving tomorrow night, man. Let me look and see what the Saints have been doing. That's tough because I'm a really big Rashid Shaheed fan right now. And I think Bucky Irving is a really exciting running back. They're getting the Atlanta Falcons. The Falcons have been stingy against running backs in terms of PPR points here. They've allowed 2 running backs over double digits. Alvin Kamara did it, and Saquon Barkley did it. Najee couldn't do it, and the Chiefs backs couldn't do it. I think as far as a safe floor and the highest ceiling, I think it's Shaheed. I think it's Shaheed for me. And tomorrow night we get a good look at Bucky Irving, and hopefully he's a guy that we can trust going forward. But I'm going to lean Shaheed. And Thursday nights are tough for me, Brian. I usually don't like to play guys that are like fringe starting flexy type plays. I only like to play my studs because Thursday night you never know how it's going to go. Usually those games are heavy unders. I'm going to lean Shaheed in that question. I think he does. I think his value will be more of like a Braylon Allen, Tank Bigsby type, or a guy that's going to get 7 to 10, maybe 7 to 10 touches, on a good game, something like that. And we're expecting Christian McCaffrey. They're saying they're ramping him up this week, or starting to begin the ramp up period. They have their bye in week 9. I think week 10 is when we're going to see Christian McCaffrey potentially back on the field for the 49ers. Yeah, man, he's popped up for us the last couple games here. We've been talking about him. He's got he's been outplaying Brandon Cooks for the last 3 weeks. He's catching touchdowns from Dak, which is nice. 14, 13, and a 5. That's what a bad game looks like for Jalen Tolbert. But I think there's a little bit of something here. And maybe not starting him against Pittsburgh this weekend, but if he looks good against Pittsburgh, he might be a guy that we use against Detroit. Yeah, and I own Zay Flowers in a dynasty league. In my most important Superflex league, I have Zay Flowers, and I am a little discouraged. The last 2 games have not been great. Sunday Night Football was just a weird game. I don't know if they're gonna. They might have another game or 2 like this where they just completely, destroy a team. But this Dallas game, 3 for 20 and only 4 targets. That game was a little bit of a concern. The Ravens got up early in that game, and then they just didn't have to do much. So 2 games where the game script gets heavy. Ravens up early, not having to throw the ball. I think against Cincinnati, Washington, Tampa Bay, these are going to be much tougher games. So I think the routes will go back up. 16 and 12 routes. I mean, that's really tough. I'm actually sitting Zay Flowers in one of my leagues because I have Brian Thomas Jr. So like if you have someone that's playing better right now, I'm open to playing that player. A little bit concerned about the route usage. He's not as trustworthy. He looked great the first 2 weeks, but I think he's lost a little bit of our trust. Assuming Singletary is going to play, and we have to watch that because he missed practice today with a groin injury. If he misses practice tomorrow, you probably got to play Rachaad White. And honestly, I'm not too opposed to just playing Rachaad White anyways over Devin Singletary, assuming this is full PPR. I think Bucky Irving is going to be much more involved, but Rachaad White, 1 bad game and 8.5 you can tolerate. A 10.4 though sounds decent. I think there's going to be more touchdown opportunities in Tampa Bay than there will be in New York. I'm going to lean Rachaad White ever so slightly. And hey, thank you, Brian. We appreciate it. Thank you for the super chat. That's really nice of you. And thank you guys so much. We got a lot of people. We got 22 people in the chat tonight. So I just want to say thank you. Appreciate you guys. Should I do this more on Wednesday nights, guys? I usually have been holding this back and doing it on the members only page. But if you guys are liking this video and having good, if it's a good feedback video for you guys, then we should do this more often on Wednesday nights. I will do that. Brian's asking rest of seasons. We got to keep 4: Higgins, JSN, Wicks, Kirk, and Pittman Jr. Okay. I think Higgins and JSN are the safe keeps. And then it comes down to Wicks, Kirk, and Pittman Jr. When Anthony Richardson's the starting quarterback, I don't want Michael Pittman Jr. in my lineup. When Flacco's in, it's a different story because Flacco's going to lock into 1 or 2 receivers and just hit them with targets. Christian Kirk, though, again, the last 2 games, 10 and 12 targets. Like the Jags are starting to figure it out that they need to get him involved. I like what I'm seeing here. So I think rest of season, I probably prefer Kirk over Pittman. And then it comes down to Pittman versus Dontavian Wicks. Now, in the short term, Dontavian Wicks is the much better hold start. I think we're letting Michael Pittman Jr. go. And we did get confirmation that Christian Watson's not going on the IR, which is a good sign. But there's also the opportunity that when Watson comes back and maybe Wicks just balls out for the next 2 or 3 games, and they can't put Wicks back on the bench. So I think Michael Pittman Jr. is probably the guy that I'm going to move on from. And the only way that hurts you is if Anthony Richardson's not starting. And I know that just happened last weekend, but they're already saying he's going to play. I'm going to lean towards Michael Pittman Jr. being the bench here. Brian, does that make sense? And hey, thank you again for the super chat. I really appreciate it. So we kind of know what Clyde Edwards-Helaire is, right? He's not a great player. He's a capable RB2. Overall, I think Kareem Hunt last weekend, I think it was kind of an audition last weekend where Carson Steele, he fumbled it the second time on the season, and he basically didn't play again after that first drive or two. So no more Carson Steele. This weekend, we're going to see Hunt and Samaje Perine be the lead backs. I don't know, they have activated Clyde Edwards-Helaire practice window, which means he's got 3 weeks now to practice and play with the team. But he's kind of a weird one. He was on IR for PTSD, which I don't know what he's got going on in his life. But it's a really weird one, man. I do like maybe adding Clyde Edwards-Helaire to the bottom of my bench. But it's a really weird thing going on with him. Living with PTSD is no small feat. It's very hard and very overwhelming. He's had flare-ups. Just doesn't sound like a guy I trust a lot. So I'm confident Kareem Hunt is the Chiefs running back I want rest of the year. Yeah, I don't know if you have anyone you can cut, Harris, unless you want to part with Javonte Williams, but probably can't add Tank Dell. I mean, you can try and make a trade to free up some space. If you can pull off a 2-for-1, whether it's Xavier Worthy and Bucky Irving right now, and go get a running back or something like that, maybe that's the move. And you do have A.J. Brown coming back after bye, so that's great news. Your receivers are very, very good then. I don't know if you're going to see Michael Pittman Jr. crack your lineup then, Brian. I do like Kyler Murray this week. I mean, I'm pretty bummed on the Cardinals offense as a whole. I have Murray as my QB6 at San Francisco. I've watched their games. They keep shooting themselves in the foot. If it's not a holding or a false start or some kind of stupid penalty, it's Kyler Murray getting sacked right away. So I'm hoping this offense turns things around pretty quickly. When they look good, they look really good, but they just have had trouble. I mean, they start hot in the first quarters of games, but they really struggle to maintain consistency. So if you have Kyler Murray, I'm still starting Kyler Murray. I have not seen anything on Rashee Rice yet, but Ryan, I think this is like one of those no news might be good news situations. Again, we all thought he tore his ACL on Sunday. Andy Reid basically said that to the reporters during the game that it didn't look good. And the fact that we've had Monday, Tuesday, and all day Wednesday, and there's no report that, yep, he tore his ACL, I'm beginning to think that he didn't tear his ACL. And there's a chance that maybe he gets put on IR. And some of the Twitter doctors that I follow, they're saying bone bruise, some kind of hyperextension, maybe there's swelling, and it just needs to heal. That could be really big news. And there's also the fact that they didn't put him on IR yet. Maybe it's a 3 to 4 week injury. I don't know. I'm optimistic here. And then I did see Rashee Rice. He had a weird Instagram post, but it's the more time that we don't have any news of an ACL tear, the more likely that I think he didn't tear it. Oh yeah. I don't want Rachaad White on my team rest of season. He's not a player that I trust. And despite the Jags offense looking bad, like ETN is still going to be involved, and they're not going to give Tank Bigsby a bell cow role there. There's always going to, even if ETN loses work to Bigsby, ETN's still going to be involved. And I feel I feel better about ETN's situation than Rachaad White's. And yeah, good evening, Sports Dog. We're using Terry Pickens in my two flex, and Nico, DJ Moore. Bench receivers are Dontavian Wicks. Yes or no? I'm probably starting Wicks over DJ Moore there, Sports Dog. You have great receivers, by the way. It's a shame. Rashee Rice, man, on top of these receivers, like you had an amazing draft of wide receivers. But I think for this week, I'm playing Dontavian Wicks, man, over DJ Moore. Let me see if I have that ranked like that. Yeah, I got Wicks here. I got DJ Moore at 15 against Carolina. It's a good matchup, but man, something tells me you want Dontavian Wicks in your lineup this week. The LA Rams, not good against receivers. They've allowed 7 touchdowns, which is tied for second most. Jordan Love looked really good last weekend in the second half. That would be my one hesitation is DJ Moore. They have a lot of mouths to feed. Caleb Williams doesn't look good. I might move DJ Moore down in my rankings and get Dontavian Wicks up. I don't love the Bears receivers this weekend. I think if Keenan Allen wasn't playing, I would like Rome Odunze as a potential wide receiver 3 flex, but I find him hard to trust, and I don't really want to risk it. So I'm not in love with Rome Odunze this weekend. Cooper or Chris Olave? I'm going with Chris Olave. It's a great matchup for Amari Cooper and the Washington Commanders, but I think Chris Olave in that offense, the Saints offense, I trust that offense more, and we've seen Chris Olave put together some nice games the last few weeks. 10 targets last weekend, a game against the Chiefs. That's a good game script where they're going to have to probably throw the ball to either come from behind or stay ahead. So I'm going to go Chris Olave, but it's close. And I think my rankings here, yeah, I got Cooper at 18 and I got Olave at 16. So it's very, very close there, Harris. But I'm going to lean Chris Olave for a little bit. But keep your questions coming, guys. We'll hang out for a few more minutes here. I did want to just review some of the player practice reports here and see if I missed anything from today. I'm going to go to Twitter here. Come on, Twitter. All right, Twitter not working. Let me try one more time. Come on, Twitters. All right, there we go. And if you guys, I can't believe it's not working, but we'll get to this in a second here. Hubbard or Moss, I'm going Chuba Hubbard all day. Chuba looks really good. I know it's a tough matchup against the Bears, but I really like Chuba Hubbard right now. He is he's one of the best running backs in the league right now, honestly. He's playing pretty lights out. We got Amon-Ra, Jaden Reed, Drake, London, Pickens, Addison. I feel like they kind of all in the same tier besides St. Brown. Can I get somebody like Nico? You would probably have to send Jaden Reed or Drake London plus. We don't want to send Amon-Ra. You can maybe try pulling off London plus Pickens, London plus Addison. I would rather keep Jaden Reed over Drake London. I think if you tried and if you go to the owner that's got Nico and say, hey, would you take Drake London and Pickens or Drake London and Addison? That's probably how I would begin that conversation there, Jason. Leggett or Allen Lazard. I'm going to go with Xavier Leggett in that one, Harris. I do like Lazard. I think he's a guy that we could maybe, flex or stream. But I do have Leggett ranked as my 31st player. I think Lazard's probably in my 50s here. But I'm going to just quickly read. If you guys aren't following Underdog NFL, they have the best player updates. If you guys are on Twitter, McBride officially limited. I think Trey McBride plays. Devontae Adams, of course, not playing with the trade rumors swirling. There's the Clyde Edwards news. This one I thought was interesting. No Dameon Pierce and no Joe Mixon today. Now, I just want to make sure you guys are like, I've been following, this stuff pretty closely for the last handful of years. Wednesday's not that important of a practice day. That's more of like a walkthrough, not doing anything crazy. These guys are probably wearing shorts and shoulder pads, that kind of workload. I think Thursday is the most important practice day because that's when the offense is actually getting installed and they're running the plays that they're going to run on Sunday. Friday, kind of another walkthrough. If you can't practice Thursday, I get a little bit concerned. If you don't practice Wednesday, I think it's okay. You have 2 other days to get a practice in. Odell Beckham fully practicing. We'll keep an eye on that. Just put a pin in that. You got Raheem Mostert practicing limited, Evan Ingram back, David Njoku back. Nick Chubb, man, I'm excited to see Nick Chubb again play football. Eckler, Brian Robinson didn't practice Wednesday, so that's one to keep an eye on. Maybe that's just a day of rest. I don't know. Brandon Cooks out 1 to 3 weeks. Good to see Anthony Richardson back. No George Kittle today. No Devin Singletary. No Khalil Shakir. We already talked about Jaylen Warren. Good news for the Packers. No Christian Watson being placed on IR. And then there's the Joe Mixon one. I thought he was going to – I have him slated to play this weekend. He practiced last Friday. I thought he was going to come out and practice all week. We'll watch reports for that tomorrow. Deontay Johnson's fine. Excited for TJ Hawkinson's return. It sounds like they're maybe waiting for him week 7 is kind of what I heard. Tank Dell back at practice. And Malik Neighbors not practicing with the concussion. I think that's most of the news there. No Jonathan Taylor either. But hey, if you guys enjoyed the video, don't forget to like the video, subscribe if you guys are new to the channel. A lot of people in here tonight, so this was a fun one, and I think I should probably do these more often on Wednesday nights. Of course, we always have our Tuesday night waiver wire and Thursday night stream. But if you guys are liking this, I could probably do these more often on Wednesday nights. Go with Tucker Kraft or Noah Fant. I have Jordan Love as my QB. I can't remember who your tight end was there, bud. Who was the tight end for Sport Dog? Am I missing it? My T's on bye. We have to cut one of those players. I'm going with Tucker Kraft, man. I like Noah Fant, but he's kind of the 4th or 5th fiddle in that offense sometimes. And Kraft is kind of the hot hand right now, and he is the clear tight end 1 for the Packers. I'm going to lean with Tucker Kraft and Jordan Love. But hey, that's it for me tonight, guys. Again, I'm out of town. I'm leaving for Michigan tomorrow. So I'm gone Thursday, Friday, Saturday. I'll be back Sunday at some point. So no more videos for me the rest of this week. But I want to say thank you to everybody in the chat room. Thank you. We had a lot of people in here tonight. This is probably one of my busier live shows that I've had in a while. So thank you guys so much. If you guys do have any questions, you guys can always reach out, whether commenting on a video, Twitter. Check out the fantasyfellowship.com. Memberships there, just $8 a month. You guys get access to a Discord. Everything there for you. Thank you guys so much for everything tonight. We'll see you guys next week. Peace. Good luck.